Hello everybody, this is Manu S and welcome to another Eternal News episode. We have more spoilers to talk about. LSV was streaming the event yesterday a bit, revealed 2 more cards, and we got a couple more spoiler reveals to discuss. Alright, let's dive right in. First off, we get a really sweet new spell that pushes the Yeti tribe further. It costs 1 and requires 1 primal. It's called Snow Pelting, and it just deals 2 damage to an enemy. Worth noting is it's an enemy, not an enemy unit, so it can go to the enemy player's face as well, which is really great. And it has a nice upside. For each Yeti you control, you may pay 2 and exhaust a Yeti and deal 2 damage to an additional enemy. So I assume you cannot deal, say, 4 to the enemy player, because it has to be multiple targets, judging from the wording, and also because otherwise you could just kind of stall out and crazy burn out the opponent. I think it would be a bit too powerful and flexible. Otherwise, if it could deal like, I don't know, 6 or 8 in the late game to the opponent, for example. But yeah, it's still great. Like, I mean, Torch is insane. This is not a fast spell, making it a little less flexible, but I mean, first of all, this is primal, not fire, so having a bit worse Torch in primal is pretty great, and it still is great removal. Like, for one, it deals with a lot of units, like a lot of 2-drops, Rakano Outlaw, Champion of Fury, like it's gonna be great in the mirror, deals with all the 1-drops. It deals with, say, Evelina out of Dinosaur decks and Sauropod Wrangler, which we probably will both see more with the new set. And so on and so forth. There's a fair share of things it kills. It can kill small relic weapons like sort of Icaria and stuff. And it is devastating in aggro mirrors, for example. Yetis start to look pretty damn good and real right about now. We have a bunch of great Yeti cards that we already saw, and Snow Pelting is kind of like the icing on the cake, pun intended here. So yeah, really looking forward to this. This is going to be a constructed staple in Skycrack aggro in some number, because yeah, this will likely replace some number of Rockslide, even in a generic Skycrack aggro that is just running like 8 Yetis. And even with only 8 Yetis, this is already great. Basically having a 3-cost fast spell Rockslide that lets you deal 2 to 2 things instead of 1 to 2 things for like 2 power at fast spell speed, and just having to like exhaust your Snowcrust Yeti that's kind of like blanked at the moment anyway. Sounds like an incredible deal. The card is amazing. Great constructed staple. Super excited about the card. Alright, time for the next one. The next card LSV revealed is Jotun Feastcaller. I'll enlarge it a bit, make it a bit more visible. Jotun Feastcaller is the blue card of the triple primal charge up 5-drop legendaries that we already seen 3 of. The last one was the time one. This is a bit fragile. It's a 4/3 for 5, but it has Aegis, so it is only fragile in combat and against relic weapons. Pretty resilient against other interaction. Although, keep in mind, say, a Varus Favor and a Torch still gets rid of it, because once you pop the Aegis efficiently, it still dies to Torch, which can be relevant depending on how many other units and Torch targets a deck like this is going to play that plays that guy. Tribe is not very relevant. There's no incentive to play Jotuns. They just happen to help Yetis sometimes, or Yetis turn into Jotuns. So they're more like a support tribe for Yetis, or just an irrelevant tribe, depending. But the ability is really powerful. This is basically a more one-sided version of Reliquary Raider, I think is the name, the time 5-drop, but the time version costs 1. Also draws a card on attack, but instead of having Aegis or stacking up, gains health on blocking, but is a lot easier to cast. But I guess the Aegis is kind of a big difference here, because you can put this in more of a controlling or like mid-rangey deck, make sure to support it with like cards like Sabotage and removal like Annihilates and Permafrost and stuff to make sure that the opponent is light on answers, like take the relic weapons with Sabotage or like one of their removal pieces to make it harder for them to break the Aegis and kill the Feast Caller, and then this card can easily win the game on its own. So like this is the kind of card that you play out, hope it doesn't get answered right away, and then you just kind of protect it and clear the path for it, and it keeps drawing fuel to keep protecting it. It kind of protects itself once it gets rolling, because first you draw one card, second you draw 2 cards, then 3, and so on. And once you draw 2 or 3 cards, it's just so powerful. By that time you also probably dealt 8 to 12 damage. The opponent can still jump block to prevent the damage, but they cannot prevent the card draw. So yeah, this card is definitely interesting. It's one of the less pushed and less powerful cards of the 5 cost circle that we've seen so far, but we'll see how this ends up playing out. The Aegis might also make it interesting for weapons, but not sure if it pairs well enough with the more common weapons. But yeah, it's still a card that has constructed implications and is interesting, but it's a bit more narrow and specific and less pushed than the other cards of the cycle that we've seen. So Poor Primal once again kind of left behind a bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as people have been saying or thinking on stream when LSB revealed that the card has a lot of potential. It's more swingy, like it's either almost blanked and hard to get a lot of value out of if the opponent is like ahead on board a lot and makes it impossible to attack without Jotun Feast Caller dying, or you are in a position where you can kind of clear the path and protect it, and it seems almost impossible for the opponent to stop it, and Feast Caller just runs away with the game. So we'll see. Next we have Invoke the Waystones. That was Loco Pojo's spoiler. Quite the fitting spoiler for Loco, because it's a very gimmicky card. Alright, let's look what's going on here. First of all, quadruple time, so nothing to splash. This is like you wanting to be mono time or very heavy time with additional color fixing to make sure you actually have quadruple time on turn 6. And then what you get is you discard the top 4 cards of your deck, which is both meant, I think, to make sure that the card is not that easy abusable with cards like Second Sight and Avisaur and so on, so that you cannot put super expensive broken cards on top and then cheat them into play with Invoke the Waystones easily. And it's actually like a minor upside. It can mill cards like Ask for Directions or Dawnwalker, for example. Maybe there's even like an interesting, I don't know, Xenon Reanimator type thing with Grasping at Shadows and Invoke the Waystones, because Invoke is kind of like a pseudo Reanimator card if your deck is mostly, yeah, big guys, and it also like mills reanimation targets for Grasping at Shadow, although only for turn 7, so that's a bit slow. But yeah, the card is quite gimmicky, and the important part is you get to you can keep doing that every turn, so it makes sure you never ran out of gas, but you mill yourself for like effectively 5 every time, so you have to be careful to not run out of cards eventually, like out of library, because after you use Invoke the Waystones, you create and draw a copy of Invoke the Waystone that costs 1 more, so it's gonna cost 6, then 7, then 8, and so on. So as long as you keep making power drops, you can just keep invoking the Waystones. But yeah, not super super likely that this is gonna make a big impact in Constructed, but it's kind of one of those kind of interesting, weird, fun cards to try and figure out to break and see if there is something powerful that can be done with it, but most likely it won't be, if you ask me. But yeah, it's our knuckle bones of the set, so to speak. Alright. Next we have Kaiyojun Grand Shugo. This card, sorry I had to try to resize it. This card is awesome. I love it. Super sweet. So it's a 4-drop, requires double fire, so you have to commit to fire, but you kind of have to anyway because it's an Oni Lord and most of the good Onis are fire. I think there are like very few Onis in Shadow and no Onis in other colors yet, and probably never will be because Primal, Time, and Justice don't seem like Oni colors. There's mostly fire Onis and like a few Onis in Shadow, like Fallen Oni, which kind of implies that it probably used to be a regular fire Oni at some point and then kind of turned dark. Alright, so it's a 3-2, quite fragile but not that big of a deal because you're gonna have Warcry in your deck, so there is a reasonable chance that it's gonna grow. Then you also have Combat Tricks, Pummel, Rampage, Rapid Shot, Finest Hour. You also have weapons to put on, and then the guy has Warcry 2 himself, so that's pretty powerful. And reasonably early enough on a 4-drop, like on a 5-drop, like the 5-drop Valkyrie, it's a bit slow, because by the time, how many cards are you expected to draw before you cannot win anymore or have won already? But turn 4 is a bit better, and the next effect is super powerful. Your other Oni have +2/+2, so all your Oni Ronins turn into 4/3s. That's like super strong if they still live. And then we'll have to see what other Onis we get and what other Onis might become playable with this. Like Bladekin Apprentice might become playable now. Like I think the card was kind of on the verge of playability before. The 1 health and the susceptibility to silence were a bit annoying, but just in terms of pure combat, the card was great. It was a great weapon carrier. It's a great attacker with some removal to clear the path early, and then eventually it's like 3 or 4 attack quick draw and near impossible to block other than to jump block and so on. So I kind of like the card, and now with the Oni Lord it might become good enough that you actually want it. And yeah, we'll have to see what other Onis might make the cut. Maybe there's like a weapon-centric enough deck that also wants the 3-drop Oni that draws a card every time you play a weapon. Also, when Kyojin hits the enemy player, play a 2/1 Oni Ronin. So you really want to clear the path for this, so you gonna want to play a bunch of removal. Like removal is actually better than Combat Tricks here, because Combat Tricks let you not hit the enemy player, but if you kill the blocker, you get through and get a 4/3 Oni Ronin effectively, as long as Kyojin lives. So pretty powerful fire card. Fire is getting some decent 4-drops now. Between Crimson Fire, more Groundbreaker, and the Grand Shugo, Fire has some sweet 4-drop options to choose from. And this guy is already basically good just for when you have Oni Ronin, Shogun Scepter, and him in your deck, because then you have effectively 8 Oni Ronins to benefit from this and churn out more Oni Ronins, and the Warcry chains are gonna be crazy. Yeah, and I also have to say I really love the artwork. I mean, the Onis are kind of like the orcs of Eternal. They even look very orky, but they are like more demon type creatures. They are kind of like somewhere between orcs and demons from the Asian mythology, and they also look badass. Like the artwork and the artwork style is really, really cool. I really love it. Alright, last but not least, we have another legendary. It's an 8-drop, Valkyrie Harvester. It requires double shadow. It's a 6/5 flying. And when you summon it, you draw each unit that died this turn. They get flying and become Valkyries. It's a bit weird wording. They get flying and become Valkyrie. I would have assumed it should read like become a Valkyrie or become Valkyries. I think the way it's worded here just reads awkwardly. I hope they change that before the set comes out, because it just, I mean, it's minor, but it's just kind of stupid. Like, I think it would look much nicer if it's says become a Valkyrie or become Valkyries. Alright, so that means you kind of just try to make stuff happen in combat and trade, and then get them all back and turn them into flying Valkyries for Valkyrie synergies. Although so far there's not enough Valkyrie synergies for that to matter. There's like 2 ally Valkyrie cards and the Valkyrie Spire Guard and the 1/3 for 2 from the event, the Battleground Scavenger that gets back Valkyries. That's all kind of like so, especially when you already have a fair share of decent Valkyries to support those cards. So just having all your units be Valkyries has little upside so far. But we'll see if that's going to become more relevant. One other thing that people have been assuming that makes sense is it says units that died this turn, draw each unit instead of draw each unit from the void that died this turn. So that means, possibly means you also get, draw all units that didn't go to the void. Like say revenge units, you would draw a revenge unit from like the top 10 cards of your opponent's deck, and since it has destiny you would also get it into play right away and get the destiny trigger, for example. Not 100% sure if it works like that, but the game is definitely set up to make stuff like that possible, and given that normally it would say draw each unit from the void in other scenarios, it's very likely that this is actually meant to work that way, which is kind of cool. I mean, I still don't think the card is going to see much play, just not impactful enough, way too situational. Too underpowered by itself, like a 6/5 flyer, it's just not worth 8 power. Even if you draw a bunch of cards, it just feel like would need to have some more impact on the board the turn it comes down to actually help you make use of the card advantage from the summon effect. And the fact that it's a 6/5 means it even trades with the Sandstorm Titan. I think it could and should have easily been like a 6/6 at least, to stall the board better and buy you time. So yeah, that's the last spoiler and the least appealing one. This is just more kind of a flavor card, I think, rather than an actually constructed relevant card. I mean, compare this to Vara, this has no chance to compete with Vara in a shadow deck that wants an 8-drop, if you ask me. Alright, and that's it again for today's Eternal News and the latest spoilers. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As usual, don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more news and deck text in the future. Turn on the notification icon so you don't miss anything. And thanks for watching, everyone. I'm out. See you next time. Bye.